Well, greetings everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of how to recone a small speaker. If you remember back in part 1, we brought out this old radio that I've been working on for quite some time, and the speaker was completely roached on it, and it was totally destroyed by mice and cockroaches, bugs, things like that. But there was one piece left of it, and that was the voice coil, and that was still good. And so we decided, as a fun project, we would try to recone this on the cheap using just plain materials you'll find around the house, maybe some craft materials and some glues. And so if that sounds interesting to you, lean back, open up your favorite adult beverage, and we'll get started. Well, right now, folks, we're going to do the big reveal to see how this cone and glue job came out. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull some of the Mylar spacers out. Well, that's working pretty good. At least I didn't glue those down to the cone or voice coil. Let's see what happens. Very carefully. I think I'll just pull these loose and not take them out all the way. My object here is to make sure the voice coil still moves within the basket. And if it does, we have a successful cone job to be proud of here. Okay, so let's see how, oh yeah, that's working. It doesn't appear to rub either, which is really great. Okay, so I think we can call this a success. So we'll just pull this off and save a little bit of the tape for later. Yeah, I'm very happy with that. Good deal. Okay, now that we're on the road to recovery here, we're going to quickly try to remove some of the solder from inside the terminals here, so we can poke that. There we go. Get it good hot. So we can poke the connecting wires to the voice coil through it. And you could do this with a solder bulb. You don't need this fancy piece of equipment, really. We might end up doing that anyway. Yeah, that cleared out pretty well. So what we're hoping to do here is move these little wires in through there so we can glue the rest of it to the cone. Normally I wouldn't use a metallic tool to do this, but the magnet in here is so weak that it's not gonna grab or hurt anything. Well, until my tweezer shows up, let's see if we can move this one on the outside. That'll be about the easiest one. Originally that was doubled over, and I'm might see if I can do that again. Yeah. Okay, that being doubled over. Let's go ahead and solder that guy. I think we might put a little more solder on him. He's actually part of the ground to the chassis and the basket of this speaker, so you'll notice the other one is insulated. And while we're doing that, let's see if we can get the other one put in place. Nice thing about a project like this is it doesn't matter what size speaker you're working on. The same procedure. If you want to recone a bigger speaker, you know that's the procedure is the same. There's no difference. There we go. I'll get him up through there and. I think we broke to the very end off on him, so I don't think we're going to be able to double it over too well. As you can see. I'll just go ahead and solder him back in. Yeah, I think that'll work fine. So next step will be to cement the voice coil wires up against the outside of the cone here. Normally they're put on this side of the cone, but I elected to go to the other side because I thought I might accidentally damage those trying to fish them through there. So we'll see how that works out. And the next step is going to be cementing the voice coil wires to the cone. And for that operation, we're going to use a little product called made by BSI, Bob Smith Industries. And it's basically cyanoacrylate glue, super glue. And we're going to very gently try to work some in between. I think we'll start with this side here. I hope you can see this and my fat head doesn't get in the way. Put a little bit on there. And we'll try to hold it down with toothpick just for a moment. So that'll set up. hope you can see that. And if this doesn't work, we'll have to figure something else out. And just a touch more in there. That's looking pretty good. And I'll go ahead and get the other one. We'll stop the video and I'll come back when we're done. Okay, it looks like our tack welds are all done and in place, and they look pretty solid. So what I think I'll do now is we're going to put some glue here in the tray, and we're going to just go over what we did before just to get it all tacked down good. Because it isn't quite all covered yet. So we'll just go over that with this. And one thing I wanted to caution you about once again is if you're working on a modern day speaker and try not to get anything metallic within about a foot of the magnet, because with the newer magnets the strength of them is just so strong that you will not like the results when that big old ceramic magnet sucks a screwdriver right through your brand new cone. This one doesn't matter because it's 70 plus years old and its magnetism it has about as much animal magnetism as I do at my age, so you don't have to worry about that. Try not to get my face in the way here. Okay, I hope you can see that. I think we got it pretty well gooped up. All right, and we'll let that set up a while and come back and see what our next step is. Well, folks, I made a slight change in the construction material I want to use. I originally wanted to go with this headliner material that I wanted to apply to the as a surround, like so. But after doing so and filming it and getting all the glue in place, I found that it was it dried extremely stiff. And so much so that I even tried it out on the radio, and it sounded terrible. It sounded like a Dixie cup and a string. So I tore it off, ripped it off, and went to my junk box of old materials, and I found an old t-shirt that I wanted to try out. And you can see it here. This is the material here, and it's very stretchy and flexible. It's almost the same thickness of the headliner material I was going to use here, a little thinner, but it's very stretchy. So I think once I get that glued down in place, that it'll give the cone a little more compliance to what we want to do here, because it was just so stiff you could barely move it. So having said that, we're going to go with this material when we get ready to glue it back down, and we'll make a second attempt on it. You can still see where some of the glue's left around there. I managed to get it off the basket of the speaker, but the glue just, it's hard to get off of paper once it's on there. But I got most of it off, and it'll probably be hidden pretty well once we get going on it. And another thing I found out is before you start gluing the surround on, is you really need to find the center of the voice coil and cone travel. And when I got it glued down, it was pretty much bottomed out, and it didn't have much room for movement. And so what I did in this case is we're going to try moving the cone to what you know is pretty much center of its excursion. And once it's there, we're going to try to lock it in place using a couple of popsicle sticks and some painter's tape. And it's pretty much centered right now. I already have one stick in place, as you can see there. And I'm going to try to get another one through here. So we'll have a little bit of a way to where we can glue this down without moving the cone too terribly much. And so we're going to try that. And I think we might just go through the top part right there. And that's pretty tight the way it is. I may just keep with what I have here, because that's pretty much keeps it from dispersing too much. I don't know how I can get in there very well, and yeah, that's going to be tough to do. There's a spot we can probably glue or probably tape down a little bit. That'll help. And let's get a little painter's tape out here, and just try to keep that from moving too terribly much. One more piece will probably do it. Let's get over here and show you that. And yeah, hopefully that'll keep it from bottoming out when I'm working with it. We still have a little movement in the outward excursion, which is okay. But we'll be putting a lot of tension on this as we glue it down. So yeah, let's go with that. And in the meantime, I think we'll take this tape off. That protected our voice coil magnet from getting anything in the slot. And we'll put in our 3 shims. Try to get them all the way to the bottom of the magnet. That way it'll be even all the way around. There we go, that one slid in nicely. Okay, so I think we're pretty well centered up here. And in the next step, we'll go ahead and begin gluing the outside diameter of the surround. Well, we're going to give this one more try and put a little bead of glue around the outside rim of the basket here. Just going to be a fairly light bead. We don't want a lot of squeeze out, but we want to make a good connection. Get that spot right there and we'll be ready to go. Okay. Now I've marked the holes here to where there's just a little cutout in the basket, so we'll start putting down some of our surround. We can stretch and move it so we don't have any bunches or gaps. Just like that. Guess I should have put my hand condoms on. Now we'll go the other way so we don't stretch it the wrong way too long. Now we'll let that dry and we'll come back later and attach the inside of the surround to the cone. And hopefully that'll make it a little more compliant than the last time. And when we're done with that, and that seems to work, we'll probably finish up with putting the dust cap on the center there. And the outside of the surround is dry now. What we're going to do is squeeze out a little glue into here and carefully apply it with a brush underneath the surround and on the cone itself. But before I do that, I wanted to show you what I did. I got rid of the popsicle stick idea that I was using to find the center of the excursion of the cone, and it just got a little too cumbersome. So what I did was I found the center of the excursion and put in a couple of witness marks here, if you can see that, right there, so that if it moves off of that at any point, I can tell it right away, and I can put it back to where it was, because once you have the shims in here, it kind of locks it into place for a while. And so right now I've got it locked just about the middle of its excursion, and we're going to squeeze out a little bit of glue here and begin the process. Hopefully that'll give it a little more. And hopefully that will work for us. Peel that back just a little bit and start brushing around the cone center here. And while that's setting up somewhat, we'll work this out and stick it down. And that sticks down fairly nicely. And we'll keep doing that as we go around. We'll probably do that halfway and then do the other half just to kind of keep things even a little bit. But I want to give just a little bit of roll here to it, so it has some, at least some way to move when the speaker cone does. We'll start out on this side now. So you get the idea of what we're doing here, and I think we'll probably speed the video up once we... I think this will give it enough compliance to where it will allow free movement of the cone. And if it's too much, we can always kind of dope the surround with some more of this adhesive, which would stiffen it up quite nice. Make sure our witness mark is still in the center of travel. That looks pretty good. Yeah. Just slightly go around this, make sure we didn't miss anything. Apply a little more. I can tell already this is going to give us a lot better movement than my other idea with the headliner material. Got one there that's a little, feel like a dentist doing this. Except I'm not staring in an empty cavern of a mouth. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Well, we'll let that set up, and we'll come back and pull the shims, and maybe even run a little pre-test before we glue the dust cover on and the surrounding gasket yet, and then we'll be done. And now, folks, it's time to test our little Blue Max Jewel here. And I've got out the radio. We'll go ahead and pull the shims out and check the cone, and it feels very nice, very much normal. And we'll put it down here, and I am going to set up a A/B switch so we can tell the difference between a regular commercial speaker, the one that's in the radio now. It's not the original. This was the original. And we will put one speaker on this one alligator clip on that one, and the other one on our speaker here. And I'll try to put these side by side as much as possible. And I'm going to put the microphone down here and kind of between the two so we can tell what's going on. And the radio is plugged in. We're going to go ahead and turn on the Variac now and run it through the isolation transformer. And the tubes are heating up.
For their own futures, for their own income, and for what they're trying to accomplish in their time in the NFL.
And
if we've learned anything over the weekend,
right there.
if next year, when some talking head starts telling you that the worst team in the NFL is trying to tank, that's when you just turn the channel.
And this is the speaker
seconds, the College
on the
Football
left.
Playoff Committee spoke. Your source for all the sports news, scores, and information in the Golden Belt
quite a
is
lot alike.
1590 KVG.
And
Especially when you get in everybody.
I'm impressed. I think it sounds pretty good.
Those seniors.
Let's go through a few stations here. Maybe we can find some short music to play.
Take back the tinsel, stockings and
That's that speaker. And that one. Don't want to stay on there too long, we'll get copyright dinged.
With Joe Biden winning it, and everybody goes, what? What happened there? And so there was a cyber firm that did an analysis of that.
Through that one.
And it got released.
And back to this one. And you can tell when you put your hands around a speaker, they really should be in a baffle somewhere, so you can get a little more bass out of them. When they're out in free space like this, they don't sound all that great, but as soon as you put something over it, they sound a lot better. Even your hands make a difference sometimes.
There's this Novus software and Agilus were out in Nevada and Arizona, which basically they were
Time of year. Bob's Pawn Shop in Salina would like you to pause and remember that we are already given the ultimate Christmas gift, Jesus, the reason for the season.
I'm going to turn it up really loud. That's that speaker.
I want to read who we're talking to here because people are watching and they know who it is because they're very big on the screen.
Yeah, NFL career with last year. So you blocked these guys in training camp and in practice.
What stood out from that experience?
From just being with Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
I mean, just the standard of the stuff that they did.
Okay.
Can't bring me what I need. Come on.
We'll shut that off. And there you have it. It sounds like we were successful in reconing and reviving a 70-plus year old speaker. And yeah, I'm very happy with that. It could use a little more bass, and I suppose if we stiffened up the surround just a little bit, maybe with some really light glue, we might be able to coax a little more bass out of it. But I'm impressed. That came out better than I thought it would. So, I think in the next step, we'll go ahead and put the dust cap on. We'll clean this out real good. Put the dust cap back on, and put the gasket back in place so it looks more like a speaker. And put it in the radio. So we'll see you back here in just a couple of minutes. Okay, now that we've tested our speaker, and it does sound pretty good, it lacks a little bit of bass response, but it's not bad. I did notice also that under high volume conditions that the speaker really had a lot of excursion to it, and it's most likely because the surround is just a little bit too flexible. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out some weldwood contact cement, and which is pretty much the same stuff as we used to glue the surround down. And I'm going to do a little process that I call doping, and that we're just going to put on a very, very light coat of this over the edge of the speaker itself, just like so. And this, edge of the surround, I mean. And this will, of course, probably stiffen it up somewhat and keep the speaker from reaching the limits of its excursion, and soften the flubbiness of the sound a little bit. But I'm still very happy with the way this turned out for being a totally homebrew project, as ham operators call it. And we'll just lightly go over that. Rubber-based adhesive is nice and flexible when it dries, so this shouldn't stiffen it up too terribly much. And if it's not enough, we can always put on additional coats. So we'll go through that process right here now. just all the way around. And once we get there, we'll probably just let that set up and see how that works out. And once that dries, we'll be right back. And while that's drying, we're just going to finish this up here, and I'm going to run a little bead of the speaker adhesive around here and stick it onto their newly repaired speaker. There we are. All right, let's put our speaker back in frame and let's press this down onto it. Get the holes lined up. Looks pretty good, and so we're just going to set that down like that, and we'll get a weight and put on that and let it set for a couple hours. Now that the glue is dry on our speaker and on the surround, we've got it a little more stiffened up than it was before. I'm going to do an A/B comparison test between our newly repaired speaker and an old one that I recently found. It's the identical size and everything. It's amazing that there are about 70 years difference between these two. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to place our lapel microphone right in between them here, and I'm going to do an A/B comparison between the two. Now I'm going to switch on the radio through our isolation transformer, and we'll start with this speaker first and probably play some Christmas music here or something, whatever comes up on the radio. And
Wasn't that expensive? No, Roars
we go.
restored my carpet to almost new at a fraction of the cost of replacing it. Who did all of this? Roars Carpet Cleaning, 722 East 7. Online. Roars Carpet.
Let's see if we can find some music here or something. Okay, now we'll switch to this speaker. Now we better go back to something else.
Above average wages, health insurance is offered, and all shifts are available, even weekends. Old Chicago and Hayes, come to work in a place where work doesn't seem like work.
We'll
It's
switch
fun.
back
Old
to this
Chicago and
speaker.
Hayes, apply today.
KAYS weather. This is likely going to be our warmest day of the week as temperatures continue to climb today.
And there's not a whole lot of difference, so
this afternoon with strong south winds. Clear overnight as a cold front moves through late. Our low near 30. Windy
this
throughout the
speaker.
day tomorrow with some gusts up to 50 miles per hour.
And I think it sounds pretty good.
From the Eagle Storm Watch Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Dan Holiday. It's 36 degrees.
Okay, so I don't see a whole lot of difference between the two, so I'm really pleased with the way this worked out, and I think we'll just go ahead and put that in the radio and finish up the this project and call it a good repair here. I just want to give you an overall view of it. Still need to brush it up a little bit, but we got the dust cap in place, and yeah. We're going to call it the Blue Max. Well, as you can see, we've made a successful project out of this 73-year-old speaker that was pretty well roached out, as I said at the beginning of episode 1, part 1 of this. The speaker looked like it did right here, and just terrible. And I just want to encourage you that if you have one of these old speakers, it doesn't matter what size it is, if it's made out of unobtainium and you can't get a replacement for it, give it a try. Try reconing it. You've got nothing to lose. Unless the voice coil is completely burned out, you'll probably have a successful project, and a fun one at that. So I just want to thank you for tuning in today and watching my channel, and hopefully we'll have another video maybe on restoring an antique radio in the future. But for right now, I just want to give you a big thanks and a shout out for those who've watched both parts of this series.